Listen to the Wealth Talks podcast and increase your financial wisdom. You will find episodes about investments, the infinite banking concept, how to fight inflation, the financial side of retirement, and financial questions Jesse asked his girlfriend. Listen to the Wealth Talks podcast on any podcast platform or watch it on YouTube. There are new episodes of the Wealth Talks podcast weekly. Search for Wealth Talks podcast online and subscribe for free.
Looking for a knife that's more than just metal? The Rainy Forge handcrafts blades in a real coal forge, the way they were meant to be made. Every knife is meticulously crafted, hair-popping sharp, and built to last a lifetime. From hunting to cooking, we've got a blade for you. Affordable heirloom quality. Visit therainyforgeblacksmith.com and click Buy a Knife to get started. The Rainy Forge, built with tradition, ready for your adventure.
Attention, you're listening to the Todd Huff Radio Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk radio. Be advised that the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. Here's your conservative, but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
Well, that is right, my friends. You have tuned in to America's home for conservative, not bitter talk. I'm your host, the one and only Todd Huff, behind the microphone here, the benevolent dictator here at the Todd Huff Show, and it is indeed my pleasure to be here today. I've got lots of things that I want to get to today. I want to start today by talking about just how obvious these problems are that we are facing, just how obvious these solutions are, and just how easy it is for people to come to realize this. This is becoming more and more clear. This is becoming clearer and clearer. Now, for many of you, this has been clear for a long time now, but those that you maybe encounter, maybe at home, maybe in the neighborhood, in your family, in the workforce, at your school, at your business, whatever, there are still plenty of people out there denying reality, my friends. And so we are here to be a shining light, shining on the truth of reality. It will be there no matter what we try to do to ignore it, my friends. So I want to talk about that today. There's plenty of things in the stack of stuff. If you're new to the program, the stack of stuff is a hat tip to the late, great Rush Limbaugh, of whom I was a massive fan. Rush used to have a physical stack of stuff, of stories and articles and so forth that he was going to be talking about on his program. Ours has become a digital stack of stuff, which we just call the stack. It's on our website. If you want to reference or listen to anything that we talk about on the program, you are welcome to do that there. It's at toddhuffshow.com. Just go to the stack. Let me ask you before I get started, my friends, would you rather take 2 soft gels a day or spend hours in a doctor's office talking about your cholesterol? See, I know what I would choose, and that's why I take Solti. Now listen, I'm not against doctors. There's a time for doctors. Doctors can do good things. I'm not trying to dissuade you from that, but I'm talking about as a starting point when you're looking at your heart health. Wouldn't it be better to start with an all-natural, clinically proven, scientifically proven way to lower your cholesterol? It doesn't include prescriptions. It doesn't include doctor visits. It's not even a drug, my friend. It's just 2 Solti soft gels a day. That's all it takes to take care of your heart health. And let's face it, as you know, your family needs you, your business, your church, your community. All those folks need you. This country needs you as well, as we talk about these things on this program. And we need you healthy. We need you strong so that you stay in this fight. It's a simple way to make sure Solti is that you are around for the long haul. Go to Solti.com, SOLTEA, promo code Todd. That's my name, TODD. You'll save 50% on your first order. You will get free shipping. That's Solti.com, SOLTEA, promo code Todd. 2 soft gels a day. That's all it takes. It doesn't get much easier than that, my friends. The only thing you have to lose is your high cholesterol number. So let's start. Generally speaking, we have, what are we into this? Roughly 2 months into this. Inauguration Day was January 20th. Here we are, March 25th. And so we're a little over 2 months into this. And it is an obvious difference between where we were headed, and what we are doing now. Now, I will maintain, and I think that this is obvious for all those people out there who are truly looking not to have your political party win, not to demonize one side or the other, although a lot of times we don't have to demonize, we just tell the truth of what the left is trying to do. But let's put all that aside, all the labels, all the monikers, all the personalities. It's easy, by the way. That's what leads to a lot of political arguments. A lot of political arguments are started when we begin to use names, when we begin to use labels and so forth. And it's necessary. We have to communicate ideas. We have to share where these ideas are coming from, which side of the political spectrum these ideas are coming from, and so forth. Those things are important. But if we can stay clear of that for a moment, and we can just look at what is happening, look at what has been revealed. Many of you, I know, have known this. But you got to understand, I have to understand that there are people that we're on this merry-go-round. There are people that are jumping on this merry-go-round each and every day. And there's no pause button. There's no pause button to get everybody caught up. And so we're spinning around with the day's news. We've known a lot of this stuff is repeat. A lot of this stuff is rooted in what we knew or suspected years ago: the mismanagement, the abuse, the fraud, the attitude, the arrogance, the condescension of people who have political power, the people who are in the bureaucratic state running the administrative side of government, just the absolute disregard for the taxpayer, for the American citizen. I mean, a lot of these folks, I bet if we could go back and we could find video footage or audio footage, or not footage, but an audio record of what happened in some of these behind-the-door meetings, I bet they're laughing it up and making fun of how stupid and gullible the American people have been over the course of time. Now, we've all, I think, we're either in the process of realizing we have been hoodwinked, we have been gaslit, we have been abused by the folks running our government. We have, my friends. We have. And they were laughing it up just a few short months ago. Well, back until Trump became the winner of the election. They thought they had this. They thought they had this in the bag. They thought that Trump was going to be in prison. They thought they were going to avoid, they hoped anyway, they were going to avoid all of this. And now it is crashing before their very eyes. The things that we suspected have been brought to light. Many of these things that we thought were happening in this country absolutely have been happening and are continuing to happen, my friends. And so, well, it's coming to a screeching halt. But when you look at what has been exposed, I was poking around the DOGE website today, doge.gov. Just go there. I'm just going to read the top post. These are, you can go to their X account, their Twitter account. It's at DOGE, at DOGE, Department of Governmental Efficiency. I'm going to read a couple of these posts. This is what has been exposed. This is what is being fixed. Here's the first one. For the past 3 weeks, Social Security has been executing a major cleanup of their records. Approximately 7 million number holders, all listed age 120 plus, have now been marked as deceased. Another approximate 5 million to go. So basically, they've cleaned up the records of Social Security. I ask you this: who in their right minds can be against this? Now, that's a loaded statement because I use the word right mind when talking about or referencing those who might include people on the radical left, and we know that they are not in their right minds. But anyone who is of sound mind and who wants to see our country operated correctly would absolutely, positively, without any hesitation, want these numbers to be cleaned up. Now, the left will say these people weren't getting Social Security benefits. This is all a ruse. Why were they not marked as deceased? Why are they in the system? Can they not see? And through all their arrogance and self-righteousness and belief and faith in government, that if you are in the Social Security system and you are over the age of whatever it is now where you can receive benefits, well over that, twice that age, and if you're not marked as deceased, can they not see with the nearly 12 million people or whatever it was that have been listed in that category, could they not see that this is a recipe for disaster? Who could be against this? Who can possibly be against this? The previous post from that, well, it's just one that was a little bit earlier where DOGE had revealed 3.2 million people in Social Security were marked as deceased. They have a weekly credit card update. Now, this is when, well, let me read this. Weekly credit card update. Pilot program with 16 agencies to audit unused/unneeded credit cards. After 5 weeks, approximately 298,000 cards have been deactivated. 298,000 credit cards. Now, you might be one who believes that these cards were just not being used. This was all oversight. They are managing their budgets meticulously. They're combing through every expense, and the people in government, knew that there was not one single expense that was made that was inappropriate. But if these folks, again, are so intent on protecting the taxpayer and making sure that we adhere to spending guidelines in the federal budget and all this sort of stuff, why would they have approximately 298,000 cards that are open, that are active, that could be used at any time? That does not sound like responsibility, my friends. That sounds like complete and utter mismanagement. If you ran your household, if you ran your business, if your church, if your local community, whatever, your homeowners association, if you ran any of those things the way that we have been running the federal government or allowing the federal government to be run for decades, you would either find yourself bankrupted immediately, potentially in the clink. That's what would happen. Continuing to read this post here, as a reminder, at the start of the audit, there were about 4.6 million active cards/accounts and still more work to do, according to DOGE. Why are there this many open credit cards? Here's another post. As of Friday, SBA now, quote, requires date of birth collection for all direct loan applications, pauses the direct loan process for those under 18 and above 120 years old. Basic sanity checks like these are initial steps toward minimizing fraud in government payment programs. So this is in response to DOGE uncovering that there were massive amounts of loans that were given out to children. It was like several $1 million. I've got it pulled up, but actually it may be right here now that I say this. FoxNews.com, Pam Bondi threatens prosecution amid DOGE's findings about fraud. We're coming after you. She says, by the way, here's something that every single American should be behind. If you are guilty of committing fraud with taxpayer dollars, you should face the consequences. This is not complicated stuff, my friend. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi issued a stern warning to those engaged in government fraud at the most recent cabinet meeting on Monday. Speaking with President Donald Trump, again, this is a Fox News article, at the meeting, Bondi thanked Tesla CEO Elon Musk for uncovering, quote, fraud, waste, and abuse, end quote, through the Department of Government Efficiency Initiative. A lot of waste, this is Pam Bondi, a lot of waste and abuse, but there is a tremendous amount of fraud. And Elon, thank you for your partnership. Thank you for your team. You have uncovered so much fraud in government. Bondi then revealed that an internal task force is involved with bringing those accused of fraud to justice. We will prosecute you, the Attorney General warned. We have an internal task force now working with every agency sitting here at this table. And if you've committed fraud, we're coming after you. Thank you, Elon. Now, if you read down in this article, this is what it said. The topic of government fraud was mentioned throughout the meeting, with Musk claiming that he found $330 million of worth of waste within the Small Business Administration. We found, this is Elon Musk, a case of fraud and waste within the SBA where they were handing out $330 million worth of loans to people under the age of 11. I think the youngest was a 9-month-old who got a $100,000 loan. Now, I'm sure there's people who will excuse this. I'm sure there's people who will say this is no big deal. But friends, if there is a 9-month-old baby, I know that we think, the left tells us that babies know their gender at birth and all that sort of stuff, but babies don't know. Babies don't know. Well, by the way, they say that about the babies knowing their gender. Basically what they're saying is they know if they're born a boy and they're really a girl, they know that at birth. They know that. I've heard leftists claim that they know that in the womb. They're aware of this. Babies, of course, these are the same babies that can be aborted. None of this stuff makes any sense. But anyway, they certainly cannot fill out an application to the SBA. You filled out paperwork for different things with your government, and you have been, like the rest of us, utterly confused at all this paperwork and all the requirements and everything else. But the baby, a 9-month-old, can't do that and get a $100,000 loan. I mean, that is, what do you call that if that's not fraud? I mean, there's an application. It's in the name of a 9-month-old baby. The 9-month-old was apparently given a $100,000 loan. That's not just an accident, right? It's kind of like when the left say that they misspoke about something, right? If you're upset, if you hate your political enemies and you go on a tirade and you talk about how much you hate your political enemies or how you're justifying violence or hinting at violence, and this reminds me of Jasmine Crockett and Pam Bondi having a fight with her about the rhetoric that she's out there using about Elon Musk, but that's, maybe we'll get to that, maybe we won't. That is in the stack of stuff. But anyway, if you're out there and you go on to a tirade, you say a bunch of things that you really mean, you're just letting your anger speak, you lost self-control, basically. You can't go out and say that you misspoke. That's not what misspeaking is. That's losing your cool. That's losing your filter. But that's not misspeaking. Misspeaking is if I'm thinking one thing and I say another by accident. I do that on this program from time to time. I know you probably don't believe that because you've never seen me make a mistake on this program. But there are times when I get to talking and I'll say somebody's name and I'm thinking of somebody else, but I've said the wrong name. That's misspeaking. It's not misspeaking to say how much you hate your political opponents, how burning down Tesla dealerships and threatening people who have Teslas, how that's a good and acceptable thing, is that's a protest or a boycott when it's actually a form of terrorism here in the United States of America domestically. You can't, that's not misspeaking, but this is what the left does. These things aren't accidents, they're intentional. At what point are people who are committed to defending this government at all costs going to wake up and smell the roses here and realize that the jig is up? The jig is up. The American people are onto the ruse. They've at least come to the point where they know that there is waste and abuse. Waste, definitely. Abuse, some people drag their feet because abuse seems to imply some sort of intentionality. Some people don't want to believe that these elected officials or even these unelected bureaucrats really want to do as much bad and damage to this country as they do, so they're reluctant. And fraud, that's really intentional, right? Where you're coming up with a plan and you're trying to defraud the American taxpayer of their tax dollars. A lot of people don't want to come to that point, but more and more people are reaching this reality. This is what we've been dealing with. This is what has allowed all of the things we witnessed in the past, say, decade to happen. It's what allowed the Russia hoax. It's what allowed impeachment 1, impeachment 2. It's what fueled and allowed the phony, the phony January 6th commission, whatever, the select committee in the House of Representatives with make-believe Republicans. I'm on record. I'm remarkably consistent here. There were things that happened on January 6th that were bad, crimes that were committed. People need to be held accountable. There also was an absolute disregard for the truth by our government. They hid the full narrative and the story from us, the Adam Kinzingers, the Liz Cheneys, the other Democrats on that committee. They wanted you to see a narrative that showed these folks storming the Capitol, which happened. There were people that were in the Capitol, but there's, some of these folks broke out windows. Some of these folks were in physical altercation with law enforcement, but some of them were ushered in through doors by Capitol Police. Some of them, even if they were guilty, or some who weren't, they were accused, they were denied actual due process. I'm amazed that the left has more concern about the due process rights of someone who's here on a visa, someone who had to earn the right to be here, who's out there being a puppet for Hamas, speaking on behalf of and defending terrorist organizations. They're more concerned about his legalities being revoked than they are the January 6th protesters, the January 6th people who were charged, people who are even if they're guilty, they have certain rights that have been abused. And people have watched this. People have watched the lawfare on Trump. People have seen what happens, and they know that our government is out of control, and that the number one priority of this administration is to come in and to clean it up financially, to clean it up administratively, the way that it operates, all of that sort of stuff. And it's right there for anybody who wants to see it. It is right there. The reasons and the rationale for why we're here is as clear and bright as the noonday sun. More to speak about here, my friends, as we get further into the program. But let's talk real quick about seafood. And I'm not talking any seafood. I'm talking wild-caught Alaskan seafood from Kenai Fish. And by the way, that's Kenai. That's pronounced Kenai. It's spelled Kenai. These folks are the real deal when it comes to delivering you the best seafood imaginable, my friends. Their salmon comes from the pristine waters of the Kenai and the Castleoff rivers. They have sockeye, they have coho, they have king salmon. It's all vacuum sealed. It's shipped next day air to lock in that fresh, just caught flavor. It doesn't matter where you are in the country, you can get this quickly and it will arrive fresh. It's not just salmon though. They've got halibut. It has a mild, sweet flavor, and they have shellfish like king crab, snow crab, and scallops that'll make you, my friends, feel like royalty. You'll feel like you're eating on the budgets of the bureaucratic state prior to Trump's second term. Kenai Fish is a family-owned business. They care about quality as much as you care about what's on your dinner table. Go to KenaiFish.com. Use promo code Todd. You'll save 15% off your order. That's KENAI Fish.com. KenaiFish.com. You'll taste the difference, and you'll be supporting a company that shares your values. KenaiFish.com. Promo code Todd. Quick timeout. Back, my friends, in just a minute.
Listen to the Wealth Talks podcast and increase your financial wisdom. You will find episodes about investments, the infinite banking concept, how to fight inflation, the financial side of retirement, and financial questions Jesse asked his girlfriend. Listen to the Wealth Talks podcast on any podcast platform or watch it on YouTube. There are new episodes of the Wealth Talks podcast weekly. Search for Wealth Talks podcast online and subscribe for free.
Hello, it's your favorite president telling Todd Huff listeners about Mega Milk Protein Powder. That's what we're calling it, Mega Milk. It's protein for patriots, okay? American-made MAGA milk destroys dad bods and builds a big, beautiful wall of MAGA muscle on your entire body. So true. Don't buy protein made in China. You'll be a total disaster, a weak loser. Your workouts are winning. Drink MAGA milk. Go to MAGAmuscle.com and put some Trump in your pump. MAGAmuscle.com.
Tired of store-bought produce? Ever dreamed of growing your own healthy food but worried about space? Exo Hydroponics is a perfect solution. Exo Hydroponics is a family-owned business run by a mother and daughter team. Their innovative Exo Tower lets you grow up to 28 plants indoors or out, using less than 2 square feet. Visit exotowers.com today and start your journey to growing fresh organic food at home. That's exotowers.com.
Welcome back, my friends. What can you be against? What can you really be against that we talked about here this morning? DOGE finding, at best, we'll give the government the benefit of the doubt here, waste, probably some abuse, potentially some fraud. Who can be against this? Who can be against this? This is what's happening. This is what's actually going on. This is what is, well, this fight in Washington, D.C., or just in the political discourse in general. This is what is at stake. Who can be against this? Who can be against stopping fraud? Even if you are in favor of a particular government program, who can be against it being abused? It's remarkable to me. I mean, think of anything. Think about your own personal finances. If someone came to you and said that someone had been hacking into your account, and you decided, look, I need to put an end to this. It doesn't mean that you're somehow against all of the legitimate spending that you are doing from that account. You are against the unauthorized spending or the wasteful spending, right? Maybe those extra trips to the coffee shop or the extra trips to hit a nerve here in this room, an extra trip to the Goodwill. Oz likes Goodwill. But, you or whatever, Target, I mean, whatever. I mean, the extra rounds of golf. I mean, just this applies to all of that. That's, those things are different than saying I'm universally against everything I spend money on. No, I mean, this is ridiculous that we even have to have these conversations. I feel like the other side will do anything necessary to avoid having to admit that this government has been a government gone wild. Why can't they just admit this? It's interesting, though, because I did see, I think it was Bernie. I don't have the clip. It was in the stack of stuff yesterday. I do remember because I watched it. Bernie Sanders said in the clip, look, we all are against waste, fraud, and abuse. We know we need to do this. We know we need to talk about this. Then why didn't you? Why didn't you do it when you had the votes? We just don't think it's fair for Trump to be partnering with Elon Musk, who's a billionaire, right? This kind of stuff. And this is what is just gaslighting to the American people. They're doing everything in their power to avoid admitting, I should say, that what they've been supporting, what they've been creating, what they've been building, what they've been defending is absolutely 100% out of control. Now, I want to shift gears here a little bit because I want to take this conversation and I want to now begin to dovetail with what Trump is trying to do in Washington, D.C. So generally speaking, these are going to be some generalities here, but there's going to be, overall, this is a pretty fair, I think, assessment of what's happening and going on. So our government spends $6 some odd trillion a year. It brings in $4 some odd trillion a year. We have a $2 trillion shortfall. That's basically the pace that we're on. That's where we were, last year. We're adding to this debt basically $2 trillion a year. This is unsustainable. This is not good. Don't buy the lies that the left tells you that there's some sophisticated Keynesian economic policy or something that makes this make sense, because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. No matter how much we try to, avoid reality, no matter how much that happens, Reality doesn't change. Reality doesn't change simply because we tell it that we don't like it the way that it's manifesting itself in our reality. We can't say, look, you're a little bit too harsh on your rules. Mother Nature, the realities of life, you're too harsh on us. We want it to work this way. That's not the way that it works. I've long since I've said that I'm waiting for some leftist, because there's somebody out there. I'm telling you, there are people out there ready and willing to believe this. All the things that they say they're going to eliminate with their federal programs and their utopia. I just say, look, why don't you just come out and say you're going to make death and disease illegal in America? Just say it. Just say that it's going to be illegal. Somebody's going to vote for it because they're going to say, man, yes, death and disease are bad. It's great to see a politician who's going to outlaw these things. But see, most of us have enough sense to know that no matter what amount of legislation exists that says death and disease are illegal, it doesn't matter, because there are realities in this world that say that those things are going to happen in spite of what we want. Now, we can take steps to prolong life. We can take steps to try to improve the overall quality of life, to fight diseases. We might even defeat certain diseases. But the idea that we are going to come up with a solution to defeat these things and that we're going to be living here eternally in utopia is never going to happen. That, my friends, violates what we're taught about Scripture. It's appointed for man to live once, to die once, and after that to face judgment. So here we are. The left is giving us all this crazy utopia, telling us if we just, give the government more power, more money, print more money, these things are necessary. It's not that big of a deal. No, it is a big deal. If it's a big deal in your personal finance, in your business's personal finance, in your youth football league's personal finance, it's a big deal in the government's finance. No matter how much they try to make it sound sophisticated, no matter how much they try to make it sound like they know more and that they're smarter than the rest of us, if we just say, hey, let's play these sophisticated games. Listen, I'm not saying there can't be advanced ways of handling things, but there can't be things that exist that deny the realities that we face here on planet Earth. And that's what the left does. The left lives in absolute delusional. They're absolutely delusional. They're living in Delulu world. That's where they live. I, on the other hand, have taken up the mantle, once held by Rush Limbaugh, as being the mayor of Realville. They live in this world of delusion and where nothing makes sense. Up is down, black is white, all this sort of stuff. So, Trump understands the Republican Party. Well, I don't know how much the Republican Party cares about this, but Trump and his team are pushing forward. And they say, look, these are the realities we face. 6-point-something trillion dollars a year in money going out, 4-point-some trillion dollars coming in, $2 trillion budget shortfall. We're basically having to borrow or create that money through inflation to cover that gap. So we got to close that gap. So what is Trump doing? Well, he's doing a couple of things. Number one, what he's trying to do is to raise, say, I think it's roughly $1 trillion. He's going to try to save, I should say. They're going to try to find $1 trillion. That's just a big amount. But if you look at the pace of DOGE and you listen to what DOGE is doing and these contracts that they're getting out of, the waste, fraud, and abuse, the reorganization of the Department of Education, where it's being cut down to size, it's not doing all the other stuff that it has been doing. Some of these programs are still going to be around. But just if you look at the size and scope of the administrative state and you look at the waste, the fraud, the abuse, the silly contracts, and the silly expenses that we've engaged in, DOGE believes that we can that puts us on our way to finding $1 trillion. So suddenly our $2 trillion becomes $1 trillion potential. That's the goal. That's where we're trying to get. Number one. Number two, Trump's going to say, let's find another way besides taxing the American people and just printing money to come up with this gap. This is where tariffs come in. They're, again, going to be eliminated if those tariffs, if the conditions that other countries have on us and the tariffs that they have on us are removed, which will thereby help us with commerce in foreign countries, us with exports. There's going to be some money coming in there. And there's going to be some things that are happening. For example, he's got this, I forget the name of it, but we've talked about it briefly on this program. There's basically a gold card, I think, for people who want to become permanent U.S. residents, and you can buy this card. It's several $1 million. And, if the math is right, you can generate a significant amount of money from that. So you factor in those sorts of things. It's at least conceivable and possible. DOGE and Trump and his economists would say that true $1 trillion shortfall basically turns around and is balanced, or it reaches the point of, the income or the revenue coming in and the expenses going out the door are equal. It's balanced. Suddenly you have lots of good things happening in this country economically and for you, the American taxpayer. So on top of that, Trump says, look, if we get to that point, now listen, he may not get there. He may find opposition, but this is his plan. This is what he's trying to do. This is where he's headed. He says, look, if we get to that point, if you're making $150,000 or less, you're not going to pay any federal taxes. That's where Trump's trying to get us, my friends. It's ambitious. But I'm telling you, with the things that they are doing, they are not messing around, and they have us on a path to where we're headed in that general direction. So take that for what it's worth. I have to take a time out. You're listening here, my friends, to Conservative Not Bitter Talk. I am your host, Todd Huff. Back in just a minute.
Listen to the Wealth Talks podcast and increase your financial wisdom. You will find episodes about investments, the infinite banking concept, how to fight inflation, the financial side of retirement, and financial questions Jesse asked his girlfriend. Listen to the Wealth Talks podcast on any podcast platform or watch it on YouTube. There are new episodes of the Wealth Talks podcast weekly. Search for Wealth Talks podcast online and subscribe for free.
Take the guesswork out of gourmet. Playhouse Spices gives you a leg-up weapon in the kitchen. Playhouse Spices elevates your cooking with gourmet, handcrafted blends made with clean, healthy ingredients. Explore exciting flavors and become a masterful home chef. Visit PlayhouseSpices.com and use code TODD for 20% off your first order over $50. Playhouse Spices. Seek, explore, taste. That's PlayhouseSpices.com.
Looking for a knife that's more than just metal? The Rainy Forge handcrafts blades in a real coal forge, the way they were meant to be made. Every knife is meticulously crafted, hair-popping sharp, and built to last a lifetime. From hunting to cooking, we've got a blade for you. Affordable heirloom quality. Visit therainyforgeblacksmith.com and click Buy a Knife to get started. The Rainy Forge, built with tradition, ready for your adventure.
Welcome back, my friends. Third and final segment of this, the first hour of today's program. By the way, I'm still working on some tech issues. This program is we ran into some sound problems on Rumble, but this program will be streaming again on Rumble here, hopefully in the near future. Just a technical glitch that I'm having a team of sound techs try to figure out for me. But anyway, there's going to be a Rumble channel. There is a Rumble channel. If you haven't followed us, you might want to do that over there. The Todd Huff Show on Rumble. Friends, though, as we get to this final segment, let me ask you this. If you're in sales, are you where you want to be? Whether you're struggling to close deals, or whether you just want to sharpen your skills, Matt Easton and Easton University can help you. And here's what makes this opportunity unique as a listener of this program. Matt will personally jump on a call with you if you become a student of Easton University, and he'll take the time to walk you through your specific sales challenges and help you get on track, shortening that learning curve, getting you in a position where you're going to hit the ground running. So this is not a cookie cutter system. There's coaching, 2 weekly coaching calls Every single week, there are courses that you have access to. My team has done it. I've done this. Matt has a fantastic system. I've followed sales stuff as I've built businesses and so forth and done different things in my life, but his system is phenomenal. If you follow it, it will pay off. But you've got to take the first step. Visit toddhuffshow.com/Easton. That's EASTON, toddhuffshow.com/Easton to claim your one-on-one call with Matt Easton when you become a student of Easton University. Do not let this opportunity pass you by. Invest in yourself. You are worth it. This is some of the, I would go as far to say the best sales training that I am aware of is available, toddhuffshow.com/Easton. It's going to be worth the investment. You will make it back if you follow his system and if you implement those things consistently. So, as we get here to the end of the program, my friends, what we've covered today, in this first hour, what we've gone through, the things that are happening, the opposition that exists, what's actually the focus and target of the Trump administration and so forth. And there's lots of focal points, right? We just talked about cleaning up government efficiency. We talked about restructuring the government, making it more efficient, cutting down waste, identifying areas that there's been abusive spending, and potentially identifying fraud, and as Pam Bondi pointed out, holding these people accountable. This is what's up in our country today. And you don't have to be a fan of Trump. You may not like what Trump does in the future, but for the life of me, and I understand politics and I understand the reasons why people oppose him and all of that. They can't let Trump have victories. They can't let Republicans have victories that will hurt Democrats' chances at re-election. I mean, all that sort of stuff comes into play here. So that I understand. But just as a matter of common sense and just overall human decency, why would anyone be against this stuff? Why would anyone be against this stuff? Now, I will tell you, and we're going to get into this in the next hour, that the Heritage Foundation has an article that I'm going to be referencing, the Daily Signal. But the Daily Signal has this article. Again, it's in the stack of stuff. If you can't go with me over to hour 2, I understand. You can go to our website, go to the stack of stuff, or search for this thing. But this is in the stack of stuff at toddhuffshow.com. Follow the money. This is the headline. Is this the real reason the left is freaking out about the Department of Education? So there's more than meets the eye, right? There's more than meets the eye. But if you look at it even at a 30,000-foot view, right, just very, very removed, and just look at general trends and what's happening, what is the direction that Trump is trying to take this country, the way he's trying to restore, fiscal discipline, the way he's trying to make the government efficient. These are things that we've known. Listen, I've known this since I was a teenager. I'm guessing you've known this as well. I mean, the government's ability to be efficient and handle things quickly and the right way, it has become a joke. I mean, it's like joking about politicians lying to you. It's so obvious the government has been mismanaged. It has been inefficient, and it has possibly, at least at times, been fraudulent in recent history and throughout a long period of history, my entire life. And so someone trying to clean that up, even if you don't agree with his positions on, take your pick, the war in the Middle East, Russia, Ukraine, all those sorts of things. And those things matter. Please don't. I'm talking about this specifically, though. Anybody who is against this is so much on the wrong side of the equation that I can't really take you seriously. And I would dare say that many Americans don't take you seriously either, because you cannot be against this. Well, not if you're being truthful with us. That's why I want to get into this article, commentary by Tyler O'Neill of the Daily Signal. which is, of course, a arm of Heritage. But anyway, we're going to get into that in the next hour, but I am out of time this hour, my friends. Thank you so much for listening. SDG.
Listen to the Wealth Talks podcast and increase your financial wisdom. You will find episodes about investments, the infinite banking concept, how to fight inflation, the financial side of retirement, and financial questions Jesse asked his girlfriend. Listen to the Wealth Talks podcast on any podcast platform or watch it on YouTube. There are new episodes of the Wealth Talks podcast weekly. Search for Wealth Talks podcast online and subscribe for free.
Shooters, hunters, and outdoor enthusiasts, Emax Tactical has you covered. We offer specialty, exotic, and vintage ammunition you won't find anywhere else. Plus, field medical kits and civilian legal training. Emax Tactical is passionate about helping customers find exactly what they need. 90% of orders go out the same day. Visit Emax Tactical online and use code TODD for 10% off your first order. Visit us at emaxtactical.com. EMACStactical.com.